Imagine waking up tomorrow with more money than you could spend in 1,000 lifetimes. Every debt gone, every want fulfilled. A private island if you felt like it, 10 times over. Now imagine getting up at 5 in the morning anyway and going back to work. This isn't a hypothetical. This is the actual, documented behavior of an enormous number of the wealthiest people who have ever lived. Men and women who could stop, completely and forever, and instead choose 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, year after year, decade after decade, long after the money stopped being the point. You'd expect the opposite. You'd expect that once basic needs are met, and then comfort, and then luxury, and then generational security for great-grandchildren not yet born, the drive to work would simply switch off. But the real answer is far stranger. For many of the ultra-wealthy, the money was never actually the destination. It was a byproduct of chasing something else entirely, something that no amount of money can ever fully satisfy. To understand why, we have to go back to a psychological concept that has almost nothing to do with dollars. The psychologist csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying a mental state he called flow. That feeling of being so completely absorbed in a challenging task that time distorts, hunger disappears, and self-consciousness melts away entirely. Flow isn't triggered by comfort. It's triggered by a very specific balance, a task that stretches your skill almost to its limit, but not quite past it. Too easy, and you get bored. Too hard, and you get anxious. Right in that narrow middle band, something close to bliss appears. Now think about what building an empire actually requires. Constant, escalating challenge. Every year the stakes are higher, the problems more complex, the skill required to solve them more refined. For a mind wired to crave that specific balance of challenge and capability, retirement doesn't sound like paradise. It sounds like a room with all the furniture removed. Flat, silent, and unbearably empty. This is the first clue. For many of these individuals, work was never a means to an end. The activity itself, the solving, the building, the competing, had become the reward. But there's something else happening, something that goes even deeper than flow. The psychologist Adam Phillips has written extensively about how ambition can function less like a choice and more like a compulsion, driven not by desire for more, but by fear of stopping. If your entire sense of identity, your value as a person, has been built brick by brick on achievement, then stopping doesn't just mean less money. It means confronting the question of who you are when you're not achieving anything at all. For many at the very top, that question is more frightening than any business failure could ever be. Consider what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill, first described in detail by researchers Brickman and Campbell. Human beings are remarkably good at adapting to almost anything, both bad and good. Lottery winners, studied a year after their windfall, report happiness levels strikingly close to where they started. The brain recalibrates. What once felt miraculous becomes the new baseline, and the mind starts scanning again for the next thing that might make it feel truly alive. For someone building wealth, this treadmill doesn't stop at 100 million, or 1 billion, or 10. Each new milestone provides a brief spike of satisfaction, and then the baseline resets. The goalpost was never fixed. It moves with you, and there's a darker thread woven through many of these stories. The psychologist Alice Miller wrote about a particular kind of childhood where love felt conditional on achievement, where a child learned early that being merely loved for existing wasn't reliable, but being praised for accomplishment was. That child can grow into an adult with an internal engine that never fully believes it has done enough, no matter how much external evidence piles up to the contrary. The scoreboard can read $1 billion, and the internal voice can still whisper that it isn't proof of anything at all. This helps explain something that puzzles outside observers constantly. Why does a person worth $11 billion seem more anxious about a failing product line than a person worth 11,000? Because for the second person, failure threatens a bank account. For the first person, in the deepest and least examined part of their psychology, failure can threaten something that feels like the entire architecture of their worth as a human being. There's also a more social explanation, one grounded not in wounds, but in identity and belonging. For many founders and executives, their company isn't simply an income source. It's the primary source of meaning, community, and purpose in their life. The team is a chosen family. The mission feels like the only thing standing between the world as it is and the world as it should be. Walking away doesn't feel like retirement. It can feel like abandonment of a project, of a team, of a self that only exists inside that particular story. Anthropologists who study status and hierarchy point out something evolution never anticipated. For nearly all of human history, resources were finite and visibly comparative. You could see exactly how much more food, land, or livestock your neighbor had, and status was a local, bounded competition. Modern wealth removed the ceiling entirely. There is no natural stopping point anymore, no visible neighbor whose pile of grain marks the top of the hierarchy. The brain's ancient status-tracking machinery, built for a world with clear limits, now runs in a landscape with none. And for some people, it simply never receives the internal signal that says, "This is enough. You have already won." So the person working 80-hour weeks at 70 years old, with more money than entire nations, isn't necessarily greedy, and isn't necessarily even happy. They may simply be a person whose relationship with challenge, identity, and self-worth was forged so completely around building and achieving that stopping doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like disappearing. The strange truth is that the wealthiest people on earth are often demonstrating, in the most extreme and visible way possible, something true about nearly every human mind. We are not actually built to be satisfied by accumulation. We are built to be engaged by challenge, anchored by identity, and quietly haunted by the question of whether we are, at our core, enough. Money simply makes the experiment louder and the stakes higher, and the answer, for many, agonizingly elusive, no matter how large the number in the account eventually becomes.